Recording in progress.
All right, we'll call our West Haven City Council meeting to order. My name's Rob Vanderwood. I'm the mayor of West Haven, and we have our council members here with us. We will excuse Council Member Morse. She's got a business meeting she had to attend tonight, so we'll excuse her tonight. We're glad to have, the rest of the council. We have our recorder here, Miss Green, our city manager, Mr. Jensen, our legal counsel, Ms. Hugie, our development director, Ms. Fippen, and our Weber County Sheriff, Lieutenant Jeffries, who is the home run king. I just want to make sure people realize that when they played the sheriff department and the fire department, they beat them pretty bad again this year. Good job. Overall, we're grateful to have you here today. I don't know if we have anybody online tonight, but we thank you for being here. We'll get started with our meeting and our opening ceremonies. We'll start out with our Pledge of Allegiance by Council Member Dixon, and we'll be filling in for Council Member Morris, and then we'll have our prayer or moment of silence with Council Member Call.
Please stand and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight we'd like to have a moment of silence for the fallen soldier of our city, Corporal Trenton Trace Franson, who passed away serving our country over this last day or two. So please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that, and thank you for honoring him. We appreciate Councilmember Dixon and Call for that. We'll move forward with our item number 3, our public presentation. This is residents attending this meeting will have allotted 2 minutes to express a concern or ask a question about any issue that is not on the agenda. No action can or will be taken on any of these issues that are presented. We appreciate a lot of Green Farm folks being here tonight. We appreciate you guys being here. Is there anyone that would like to come up? Okay, seeing none, we'll move forward. On action item on our agenda number 4, the first item on here is item A. It'll be our city council meeting that were held on August 3rd of 2022. Item B is Semi-Service Incorporated for $10,000, $147.51. Item C is for Weber County Transfer Station for $23,214.55. And then Waste Management, item D, for $29,725.92. Is there any further discussion, council?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items A, B, C, and D.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? Okay, we'll do a roll call on this. Councilmember Call?
Aye.
Councilmember Schwab?
Aye.
Councilmember Saunders?
Aye.
Councilmember Dixon?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to item number 5, action on Planning Commission meeting recommendations. A, we'll do amend a subdivision plat for Holly's Place, approximately 1900 West and 1800 South. with Sandy Marchant. Is she available? Okay. Let's come up and just state your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Alaka Murphy, the city planner, address 1682 West, 1900 South, West Haven, Utah. Okay, so this one is for Holly's Place subdivision. It was a recorded 2-lot subdivision back in 2009. Now the request is to amend the subdivision to adjust the boundary to include parcel number 15-069-0075 and parcel number 15-069-0088, which will add 2 more lots. The boundary of the subdivision will be adjusted to include all 4. The existing subdivision and the additional parcels are all part of C2, and the 2 parcels are owned by Holly Family Holdings LLC. Yeah. Any questions?
So I think the main purpose for this, and the council's pretty aware of this, but we're trying to straighten out where 1800 comes out and comes over to 1900. That is just got to be, it's going to be so much better if we can get that corrected. So with some of the funding that we have, we just went through a review with that, with the review boards that we have for some funding that we can get. And it looks like that's a possibility that it will go through. We won't know for a little bit, but that's kind of where we stand with this today. So this is just to straighten that up a little bit more.
This is actually not on the side of the 1900 that 1800 is going to be straightened out on. This is on the east side of 1900. Just as a point of clarification,
But it does touch that area.
It won't be impacted by the realignment of 1800.
Okay. So the map that's on here, did you guys have any questions on the map that's in here?
Matt, can you pull that up so we can?
This is right across the street from where 1800 will come out, but these property lines aren't directly impacted by the realignment. It's 2 different things with the same family. They have the 2-lot subdivision on the east side of 1900, but they're bringing in 2 other parcels that they own. So they have 4 lots. They're keeping 4 lots. They're just bringing it into the recorded subdivision and adjusting the boundary lines.
Do they have any ideas what they want to do here with this?
Do they have what?
Any idea what with the amendment?
Well, the property's already being used.
Okay.
One of the members of the Holly family lives in a home that's on the property. Another one of them has a business. They have various things, so they're not proposing any new uses. They're not proposing any change of use. They're just bringing it all into one plat and adjusting the boundary lines.
Okay.
Any other questions, council?
I don't think so.
I'm open for a motion.
I move that we approve the amended subdivision plat at Holly's Place, approximately 1900 west and 1800 south from Sandy Marchant.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other further discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on to item number B on 5 for the Planning Commission meeting recommendations. We're action on ordinance 16-2022 for home occupation ordinance. I know the Planning Commission's been working on this and trying to get things put together for us, and this is what we have at this point. So did you have something you want to talk about here, Sherry?
No, at the last meeting, there was a couple changes that seemed to have the consent of the majority of the council. One was regarding just making, instead of requiring that allowed cars be parked on a paved hard surface, just change it to non-permeable. And then the other one was related to the number of employees who do not reside at the residence, changing that from non-resident employee. I know there was discussion last time about whether or not the city wanted to require a minimum lot size on auto-related home occupations. I didn't make any changes to that because it didn't seem like there was council agreement on that. And so other than those two changes that were in there, I don't have anything additional to add. I know Councilmember Saunders had some questions and things that he and I have gone back and forth on in between the meetings. But other than that, there's nothing any different than last time.
Councilmember Saunders, do you just want to delineate your concerns that you have?
Sure. And I realize I might be in the minority with my concerns. I do feel like as I went back and looked after our meeting, I looked at our commercial zones, and we have commercial 1 zone that doesn't allow auto repair shops. We do allow it in commercial 2, and my feeling is, and I'm not sure, how this is in every city, but if typically from what I've seen, residential areas are more restrictive than what they allow as far as commercial uses than, say, like a commercial 1 even. And then if we're not going to allow it only in a commercial 2, I don't know why we would allow car repair in residential areas. And so that's my first concern. My second concern is, as a business owner, I've been in situations where cities either intentionally or unintentionally create ordinances that benefit certain businesses because of benefits to the city. And for example, a larger company getting an advantage because of a perceived advantage to the city over a smaller company. And to me, in this particular case, we offer an advantage to a smaller company because of employee size or whatever than to a larger operator in the same business. And so my concern is, are we picking winners and losers? And so we do have commercial zones, and we encourage people to participate in those commercial zones. And I think this is a type of business that is typically not found in residential areas, and it does have a significant impact on neighbors and whether it's, stuff that could potentially get into the ground and affect, the pollutants, or whether it's emissions or just the nuisance of, like we have in one situation, we have at least 18 cars parked on one lot. And so those are pretty heavy impacts. And my understanding is in the prior ordinance, the particular case that has 18 cars, it was not intended that they could have that many, but because of loopholes in the ordinance, that's what we now have. And so the challenge with making these things conditional use, I think, is the enforcement side. It becomes very difficult. We're then having to spy on neighbors, and it feels like with the city, and go around and slap somebody on the wrist when they don't quite follow what they're supposed to. And so my initial feeling is that we keep it out of residential areas. The other problem I see is we have it as a nuisance in our nuisance code that you can't park a car, an inoperable car, for longer than 30 days. And I know in car repair shops, a lot of times cars will be parked there inoperable. That's why they're brought there for that time period. So it seems like there's some contradictions in the ordinance. if we're allowing it. And then if we do allow it, if the majority of the council feels that we should allow it, I do have some requests or some suggestions that I think would lessen the impact, I guess. And one of them would be a privacy fence. So that this type of activity should be behind a privacy fence to lessen the impact. So any other comments from council? I took up way too much time.
I had a question on here. Did you have a question? I was just going to ask on item 64.04 on use. On item number 1, it talks about as you move down to B, it has the business employees no more than one employee who does not live at the residence. Then when you move down to 2, it doesn't talk anything about residents or anybody that lives there at the facility. But in 3, it constitutes that any business which requires more than 5 employees who do not reside at the residence. Is there a reason we're in between the 2 to 4 employees?
Well, there is, and that's actually a really good question. So section 1 is home occupations that can just be handled on an administrative level, like somebody that has a small, maybe they have like a home salon, and they have somebody that comes in and helps them. The impact of that is probably no different than a traditional residence. So 1 sets up a level that the home occupations can just be approved by staff. 2, section 2 is, okay, if your home occupation doesn't meet all of these criteria, you can still get it, but the planning commission needs to look at it. And section 3 says, if you meet these criteria, you've likely exceeded the scope of what's appropriate for a neighborhood for a home-based business. And so you wouldn't be able to get a home occupation if you met those criteria.
Okay. All right, thank you. Other questions?
So if there's a company that does saw cutting or...
That does what?
Sorry, saw cutting, concrete cutting, and they store the trailers, the employees come and grab them in the morning and then go. They had 5 employees. I mean, is that under that threshold that they can't have that home occupation anymore? Same thing for lawn care or anything else?
It would be difficult to answer that specifically without knowing the full scope of what the business is doing. So
I think a lot of landscape companies, and I know there's a couple concrete cutters that live in our city, and they have all the trailers there on their property. The employees will come and grab them and go.
right.
They are an employee. It's in excess of 5. I don't know that that's a huge concern. It's different than a business where people are coming and going all day long. Employees are entertaining customers, I think, but I guess I just don't know that.
I think the concern is if somebody has a business where they do have, say, 6 or 7 guys that come and drop their trucks off or whatever in front of the house, grab the trailers and go. I think I can understand the concern of neighbors when you get somebody that has that level of a business, then it essentially becomes a small commercial area. I understand it may not bother some, but I also can understand the concern. I just think when it comes to having employees, I think the city would be wise to set a threshold to determine at what point something has gone beyond what's appropriate for a residential neighborhood. As it's difficult to say, it depends on what the business is, because then you get into issues of what Councilmember Saunders brought up of favoring one over the other. You also get into issues with it being arbitrary if someone challenges it. And so I think you do need to have a threshold for the number of employees that can report to the home for any part of the business and still be able to maintain the residential character of the neighborhood.
Okay.
I talked to Councilmember Saunders about this as well, and one thing that I hadn't really looked at was I was looking at how can we help our residents with their businesses, but now I'm also looking at it, how do we protect our residents who, you know, do not want to live in a commercial zone. So I agree with him. We need to look at this from both angles.
Right.
Both how the business is conducted and how the neighbors are. So
Right.
I kind of looked at this on a whole different scale after we talked. So I agree with him. We have to protect the neighbors as well as having the home occupation. So I think we really need to be aware of how the home occupation is going to impact the neighbors. So.
Right. It's definitely a balance to strike between individual private property rights and the collective community property rights.
Right. I hadn't looked at it that way last time.
Yeah.
So.
I think one thing that comes up too that's important is that the planning commission, when they're going through and reviewing these, you've got some, slightly subjective, but there's some questions on here, that you have to go through and ask. And, will the business produce, certain things, like noise and odors and dust and all those things. So I hope that, if this does get approved, that the planning commission looks at that very closely, because that does make a big impact on our neighborhoods, on what happens there and how the business is functioning. If it's a closed door where you walk in and you don't have anything really outside, but when you have those things that are running motors and things like that, it can make a big impact on the neighbors. So I think as long as the planning commission, when they're looking at these considerations, that they just really impose and make sure that they're not putting a detrimental impact on the neighborhood there.
And I think that's one of the reasons. So the way the ordinance is written right now, it's some of the things that are in the ordinance right now are a little bit difficult to enforce, because you have phrases like are likely to impact or things like that. But by shifting it to things like, will the business produce the noise, et cetera, that extends beyond the property, that's something that's measurable. When you get I can't remember the name of it, the noise measuring thingy. Thank you.
Yes.
We have one of those, and we have a nuisance ordinance. And so by shifting by shifting the ordinance more towards this, it's more enforceable, because we have things that we can quantify. We have nuisance ordinances and things like that.
On 3D, when it talks about sales of goods that are produced off premise, I think you're going to run into somebody that has a home salon that sells product. That's produced off site, right? So you have people that sell essential oils. So I don't know how to reconcile that, because
Could you tell me one more time which section you're looking at?
3D.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said B.
D.
You said D.
Yeah.
We don't want any essential oils in the vehicles. We just.
Do you guys understand what I mean? I mean,
I
you're
do.
going to find some other things.
yeah.
That,
Yeah,
I-
yeah.
No,
I
it's
hadn't
not like
thought
you're-
about that. I was thinking like,
Every place you
I
go.
was thinking like,
well, I think you're
bigger
kind of thinking
scale
of
than
people
that.
showing up at the house just to buy whatever.
right.
In these cases, they're probably coming to the home for something else, and then they're purchasing oil or product or.
Honey, yeah. Got a neighbor that
Right.
sells honey.
I hadn't even thought about that.
So I don't know that I don't know how to word that, but I feel like it's fine for somebody to sell product
In
that
a
is not produced in their
Business,
home.
right.
I would maybe, I understand like what you're going for. I think you could easily take that out of section 3 and put it up under 2. So it's like they can still do it. They just
They need a
to come
conditional
into the
use.
planning commission. Yeah.
You're saying?
Yeah. Because truthfully, I was thinking like something much larger scale than that. But I think you're right. They should be able to do something like that.
Yeah.
Because most of the people I know that do that, it's very low impact.
Right.
It's not like they have hours where people freely come and go.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you could move it up under section 2. Or, you could even, no,
probably
I
have
would
to
probably move it up under 2.
You'd probably have to reword it a little bit if you put it under 2, because you're talking mitigating, criteria to have a conditional use. But maybe not.
Yeah.
That's what I say. I don't know how to word it, but I know it's in my head.
You could actually, even if you don't put it under 2, you can make it its own section 3. Or you could just add like a B and say like, in addition to the above, retail goods, ... may be allowed but shall be required to get a conditional use permit.
Could we just modify 3D to say primarily be based on the retail sales of products and that? I mean, that would address the salon. I'm not sure about the honey, if they're producing it on site or whatnot with their beehives, that wouldn't be a problem. But, their primary business is hair cutting, and they're just selling those product as incidental.
Right.
So I don't know if that would address the needs of the.
So you said what, primarily?
So 3D, just have it say primarily based on the retail sales of goods. I don't know if that would,
But that doesn't fix it because of what
Three
if
are
they're
the
only
ones that
selling
aren't
essential
allowed.
oils,
essential oils still,
or only selling
would be
Mary
an issue.
Kay, or
Yeah.
only selling Tupperware.
yeah.
Do people still sell
They're
Tupperware?
making their own Tupperware on site.
No, but they're selling it.
But they're selling it.
Okay.
What, you said something about incidental. I was wondering if that could fit in there somewhere. So,
Yeah, unfortunately, that language is in the existing ordinance, not an added one.
So we
it's a
definitely need to fix
clarification
this
that we'd
one.
want to make.
I mean, I think you should leave the group garage sales,
right.
there, but
Sure. I was just thinking about product.
but yeah, the retail sale part, if we move that.
Like incidental products, because they're not products that relate directly to the business. but
You
they
could
are.
split this sentence
Secondary.
in half. And take out retail sales of goods produced off premise. And then put that as up under 2. And then just have the prohibition, the short-term boutiques or group garage sales held more than once every 3 months. And so 2 would have a subsection B that said,
Okay, so if they only have one person in their salon, they wouldn't even have to go this far because it would already be approved under section 1, right? So it's only going to be for those salons who have more than however many people. I don't know. It's not fitting in my head right.
So if the salon has, 5 employees or less, then they don't have to go through all of this.
yeah, if they're just doing it in their home, if they're not doing it, like, if they don't build a shop that has the salon in it, like, if they're just doing it in their home, rinsing perms out in the kitchen sink. I've had that happen.
Those were the good old days.
I know, right? Then they wouldn't need, then they could just come in and get staff level approval. But if they're going to do it out of their shop, if they're going to have a second chair, things like that, then they would need to come to the planning commission for approval. Again, it's just about the level of impact.
But if we put something like that as, well,
Forbidden or
no, I mean, if we're moving that to section 2, if they're gonna have just a salon in their home, they meet everything of one, they don't have to come get a conditional use. They can still sell product, correct?
right. But if they
Yeah.
have employees,
Because I don't feel like they should have to come in for a conditional use. If the salon is just, we know that it's fine, it meets these criteria,
Right.
we don't worry about it, right?
Sorry, could you say the last
We
part
don't
again?
worry about it, right? If
Right,
they can do that.
right.
it would only
Okay.
be for salons who are, okay, this is home occupation. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Or other oils or Tupperware, whatever it is.
Or Tupperware, or,
I-
I think we're getting pretty specific on all this stuff.
I'm just saying,
We
let's make
know.
sure that we're not
Yeah.
so somehow.
So do we want to move
Move.
that? Do we want to move it to 2 and have that set up as another option in there? Because
Well,
it
and-
would put it as a
sorry.
conditional. Go ahead.
I was going to say, truthfully, if you just strike the first part of 3D and you don't have to move it anywhere, because one of the things behind this is not really as concerned about what they're actually, I mean, as long as it's legal, of course, we're not as concerned about what they're doing as it is about the impact.
Right.
And so that's part of what this is trying to do. So if you strike the first part of 3D, then that I think actually takes care of it.
So just including short-term boutiques, group garage sales?
Yeah, if you just start 3D with short-term boutiques or group garage sales of personal used items held more than once every 3 months, like that takes care of it, because then you don't have to put anything about the retail sales of goods produced off premise, because we've gotten away from itemizing things, itemizing business types, and shifted it to impact. Does that take care of,
Yeah,
does that seem to take care of what you're talking
think so.
about?
It's a lot easier way to fix it. too.
right. If everybody's okay with that.
So how does the rest of the council feel on the, the vehicle repair?
I like your suggestion of fencing. I think that it takes away the look of it. It cordons it off so the rest of the neighborhood doesn't have to see it. But
Is it something that you want to leave in there?
I guess I feel like most of those are not a full-time business. They're doing those in the evenings. So they have, they have to meet time and the noise or whatever. So I don't feel like, maybe I'm not aware of enough, but they don't seem like they're a full-time home business to repair cars. So I don't see an issue with it personally. And I feel like 1 acre is large. I think they could, on smaller lots, do that in a small way, not as a full-time business.
Okay, any other thoughts?
I'm in favor of leaving it in there. I don't want to restrict what someone can do in their home to that extent. I know we have one that is a thorn in our side, and I know the Planning Commission is very aware, and they've been working hard on this to prevent that from happening in the future. And I think all the things that are in Section 2 there are going to give them the ability to ask the additional questions and really narrow down the impact they're going to have within the way it's written now. So I'm in favor of leaving it in.
Okay.
I'd like to take it out, but if we don't have a majority there, can we add in as a requirement, the privacy fence for that type of business.
I think that would be fantastic. I think it needs to be inside a closed building. It needs to have a privacy fence that meets our fence standards. They can't just put a privacy fence on the edge of their property to store additional cars. But that's all covered under existing ordinances. But
The privacy fence would be I feel like it would be an appropriate addition.
Appropriate or inappropriate?
And
Appropriate.
appropriate.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. Because I think I think that's a way to balance like both of the concerns. And additionally, if you require it to be fenced, that's another thing that buffers some of the noise because it keeps the noise a little bit more contained within the yard.
where would you like that addition into?
I would probably add it under 4. The lots greater than 1 acre, they have the only 3 cars, on-street parking. They have A, B, C, and D. I would add to that. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I would add to that any property like regulated under this section shall be required to screen all parts of the business from adjoining properties by fencing the entire property and by relocating all parts of the business, including vehicles stored or parked within the fenced area. That was just kind of off the top of my head, but I think that would
pretty
work.
good.
Does that take care of what you're looking for?
Yeah, if we feel like we don't have, a majority that want to leave it out, it sounds like Carrie wants to keep it in and Ryan wants to keep it in. I'm not sure, I think, not to speak for you, Kim, but I think you're
Well, we're
either
looking
way.
at it would be the mayor.
So Mayor, we come down to how
We'll see.
how you vote.
I think I would be okay with the fence.
Yeah,
So
I think
is
that
there-
would go a long way.
Is there any other changes that you'd want to make to this?
We changed the non-permeable surface in section 4, but we also refer to that down in 6406, number 5. Should probably also
Oh, yep,
change that to reflect the same.
yep.
And just one spelling thing in number 7, 4-7. In the second sentence says, shall be deemed null and avoid. And I think it's supposed to say a
Null and void.
and void, null and
Usually
void.
Natalie catches that for me at planning commission.
So just one word there on that one.
One question on procedure here. Under 1C, 64041C, the business does not use any accessory building, garage, or yard or space outside of the main building not normally associated with the resident's use. If someone uses an outbuilding for tumbling school or something like that, is that make them unqualified, or would they just now come in under section 2 for the planning commission to look at?
They
them?
just come in under section 2.
Okay, so
They can still do it.
they're not denied, but they get
Right.
shifted to planning
Yep.
commission review. Okay, thank you.
It's in a, like, we have people that will build a shop like expressly for the purpose of running their business out of their shop. And they can do that, but when it's outside of the footprint of the main house and the main garage and all that, sometimes you just want to look at it a little bit closer to make sure, like, if for some reason they're going to need like another curb cut to get the driving, but there's just a little more that you look at.
Excellent.
But they can still do it, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? I'm open for a motion if you'd like to make one.
I move that we approve ordinance 16-2022 home occupation ordinance with the changes that Sherry hopefully knows. Do you want me to say them?
No,
Okay.
I've got them. They've been very clearly discussed.
All right. With the changes discussed by the council.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, we have a 3-1.
This is actually a roll call.
We have to do a
Roll
roll
call.
call on this one. Let's see, on an ordinance? Okay, we'll do that. Let me back up. We'll do a roll call on this one. So let's go ahead and do, let's see, Councilmember Call,
Nay.
Councilmember Dixon,
Aye.
Councilmember Saunders,
Aye.
Councilmember Schwab.
Aye.
Turned out very similar. Okay, thank you for doing that. We'll go through and put that through. That passes with the changes in there. Thank you very much for the discussion. We'll move on to item 6.
Thank you.
Thank you. Action on Resolution 24-2022 for interlocal agreement between the West Haven City and Weber County School District Gymnasium. This is a big project for West Haven to move into. This is a $3.2 million investment that we'll be making, although it is for 50 years, so we all know I'll be pretty gone by then. But it'd be pretty fun to see how this all comes out. We've got the investment for the city. This is a big investment for the recreation program that we have out there and events that we can have for the citizens of West Haven. But Matt, did you want to make any comments on this as well?
Yes. First of all, I'd like to excuse Larry Hadley. He's the Weber School District Facilities Superintendent. And he wanted to be here just to kind of help finalize these, but he had a conflicting meeting for the district down in Salt Lake at this time. So he sends his regrets that he couldn't be here. From the last discussion, we did review those changes that the council had requested. Those were all accepted. And we actually had 2 more final tweaks that were just sent in right before the work session. Those actually, I think, will be very receptive to the council. First one's just a typographical one. If you look at the whereases, we did add in on the third whereas. It's now amended to say, whereas the city would like access to the school's gymnasiums for city's recreation programs and other city events when the district is not using it. That's just a clarification. Before it was oddly done. But then if you go to point number 5, this was a question about change orders. And the school just came and said they want to just strike out the last sentence on that. They will not be looking for the city to pay anything towards change orders. We will still be involved in construction issues and that, but they have agreed to pick up any additional. Originally, they were going to have us pay 5% of it, but they figured it would just be pretty minimal. And rather than going through that exercise, they have expressed a desire just to strike that last sentence from 5 under construction of the school, which would have us pay on change orders over $10,000. With that, that locks our investment price in at the $3.189 million, and allows us to have access to that additional gymnasium and outdoor fields. We also added that exhibit that shows the specific areas, including the first floor exterior accessible storage space. And so that first floor storage space will be shared. The ones up on the second floor are dedicated. So we're rather excited about it. The school's been very, very helpful on working through this, and we hope that we can proceed with council approval tonight.
And we're building storage outside.
They will have a additional storage building outside for recreational supplies. That's not shown on here because it's an outbuilding. It'll be built separately from this, and they have expressed that we will be able to share that as well.
Kind of looked like they had access to the outdoor storage on the inside of the building. That you had a door on there on one of the
This one?
On the first floor?
on this one right here.
Yes. It's accessible from the exterior plus from the hallway. And so, so we we'll be able to have access
But
to
we'll
that.
also have an outdoor for
They're
sure.
going to be building an outbuilding as well. over by the fields, and they've said we can access that as well.
I think one thing too, the resolution that we have on here and the interlocal agreement, if they could just match up a little bit with that first part that you talked about on where the city would access the school's gymnasium and city's recreation programs, and it says other city events. Maybe we could match those up so that those two are equal on there as well. You see where that's at?
Yes, on the resolution itself.
Yes.
I know it was discussed on that whereas as well, that we wanted to say the school's gymnasium and outdoor facilities, or was that an inclusion we needed in that line?
Not necessarily. The whereas is not the binding language on that. In the heart of the agreement, after the now therefore, it's pretty explicit on the outside fields.
So on number 7, it's scheduling on playing fields, so. Are there restrooms outside? Just a question.
In that case, I don't believe there are restrooms outside. It's not like a high school one, but I'm not aware of there being restroom facilities out there.
Okay.
Well, I do believe we have, when we did our field trip with South Ogden, they had access to restrooms in the
yeah.
building. So we just won't have access to the locker area.
Okay.
We're not renting this out for other events, right? This is strictly city usage.
There is options to do so. The South Ogden has rented it out during their time slots for comp leagues. They provide the supervision and such, and use that as a small revenue source. Now, South Ogden's kind of interestingly located on I-84, just off the freeway through the Adams toll lane, and so not sure how that would work for us, but it could be potential. The city staff would do it. The district does reserve the right to do likewise if we don't have it scheduled, and that's explicit in this, where if we don't have it scheduled and they have an event they'd like to rent out, they would be responsible for any damages or security supervision during that time. So this doesn't preclude it, and primarily that's the case. We would do it for our events, but we could use it if we wanted to.
But they're considered our events if you're putting it out to other entities.
We would be, if it's arranged through us, we would be responsible for the security, the maintenance, and supervision during those events.
Okay.
So, like South Ogden, they provide a site supervisor during the comp leagues and make sure things are taken care of and everything's cleaned up by the league organizers.
Okay.
Other questions?
I will make a motion to approve Resolution 24-2022 interlocal agreement between West Haven City and Weber County School District Gymnasium.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call on this one. Is there any further discussion? Okay, let's move forward with Councilmember Call.
Aye.
Councilmember Dixon.
Aye.
Councilmember Saunders.
Aye.
Councilmember Schwab.
Aye.
Motion carries. So we'll move forward with this, and Matt, if you'll help make those changes, and we should be good to go on that. So thank you very much.
And just in practice with our new policy, we will provide a copy of the amended previous ordinance on home-based and this one for the council's review at the next meeting, just to make sure everything's taken care of.
Appreciate that. Is that good with the council?
Fantastic.
We'll move forward with item number 7, notice and possible action on the proposed amendment to the Green Farms Master Development Agreement in response to the notice of default. I think we'll have Mr. Jones.
Jake Jones from Nelson Homes. Happy to be here again. First of all, thank you for the residents for your continued participation. Thank you to the council for your time. We also appreciate your feedback that you gave last council meeting. And so we kind of been working with staff to get those updates incorporated to the amendment. And, you know, two of the biggest ones were first the escrow, so kind of giving you some assurance. And although we felt like it was a great idea, it was a little bit unprecedented for us, so we had to scramble a little bit to make sure that we felt comfortable with it. And like I said, although it's not something we do typically, we do understand that it's a unique circumstance, and so we've added that into the agreement, and we're willing to commit to that. And then the other thing was, I think it was Councilmember Swap that requested some interior finish detail on the community center, so we added that as well, along with a couple other minor changes. But those are kind of the big changes, and just kind of as an update, we do have significant progress going on out there. I don't know if you guys have been past there recently, but the community park area they're putting in the utilities, and they have it all graded out to getting ready to put in kind of the base for the parking lot and the pickleball courts. So we're excited about the progress there. The stream bed's also been cut in, and we anticipate landscaping starting in the next few weeks, and obviously sprinklers and grading and all that. But yep, so just coming update on our end, and happy to answer any questions or provide context to anything else you might have.
Thank you.
We appreciate the creative way that we did the escrow. That's very, we like that a lot, so.
Absolutely. Yeah, like I said, we really value the partnership with the city and want to make sure that you guys can trust us and kind of restore some of that faith. So
I had a question on the letter of credit for the green farms. Is that, when that's set up, is that set under the LLC for green farms, or is it set up under?
yeah, typically it is whatever owns the property. And so the way we do it with subdivision agreements, it would be the Green Farm 2 Community LLC, the one that owns that property.
Okay, so it will be for that entity
Yes.
that we're dealing with directly, not Nelson Homes or?
No, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but that's how we've done it in the past. So that's the way I anticipate that happening.
And that agreement will be between our attorneys, or how does that work?
So basically, it's more of an agreement, and maybe you can chime in, but to me, it's more of an agreement with the bank and the city,
Okay.
saying these funds are here, and you can draw on them if Nielsen doesn't perform on this agreement that you have.
All right, thank you.
So
But the developer also has to sign.
Well, he has to give the money, so.
right.
Yeah, and they have to agree that, yes, the bank can do what the bank is saying that they're willing to do.
Okay.
Yep. Great question.
Are all the trails asphalt? Green Farm?
Not all of them. Most will be, but not all. We will have some concrete trails that will basically function as sidewalk, right? But interior, right? So it'd be just similar setup as sidewalk, but it would be interior in more trail format. And there will likely be some kind of just natural, either it'll look like dirt, but it'll be kind of some road base or whatever. So
The main trail that runs by the pond, and on the south side up through, up to the north will be the standard asphalt that we use throughout the rest of the city. The others will be a mix. They do have some combinations of natural trail, but then also the concrete and other hard surfaces.
yeah.
So I think there was some confusion about the Hammerhead and the road addresses. So can you clarify that? Because
Absolutely.
4550 West doesn't currently exist.
So the way that, and maybe I'm off, but the way that I'm looking at it, and I did bring a map.
Matt, can you just pull up a
Sure.
GIS and we'll look at that?
And again, I am happy to be corrected, but the 4450 is the road that's going to be closed off
Correct.
when 3675 moves over, right? And what I'm seeing on the maps online is 4550 is where the Hammerhead would go at the end of. So it's the road just to the east or just to the west of Green Farm Way. But again, I'm happy to be corrected if I'm off there.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, we're close enough.
And does it say on here when the road will be closed? 4450?
4450.
We anticipate that as soon as the 3650 road is completed, has connectivity, we'll throw those Jersey barricades back up, and I'm sure Nielsen Homes would be happy to take out that asphalt and develop that last lot in
Yeah.
that area soon afterwards.
Can we state that in here? I don't think it says that in here anywhere.
It doesn't, I don't believe.
Happy to put it in though. I mean, if it doesn't explicitly say that, then we can definitely do that. So,
I would like it in there. It's been promised many times.
absolutely.
Dates on that one, so. So where are we looking at for 4550?
All right, so 4550, you can see it's actually the westernmost north-south road there. Yep, and so the cul-de-sac would just go right on the north side of that. Sorry, the hammerhead, yes, thank you.
Okay. But that road, that 4550 is not part of Green Farm.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it stubs into Green Farm, and then the hammerhead will go on the area with the park. So, yeah. Does that answer your question? Is that a little more clear?
Yeah. Because I think we changed some of these numbers in here.
We did change.
So on page 7, construction of cul-de-sac or hammerhead at 4550. But then in the paragraph, it's back to 4450. And in number A, it's also at back to 4550. So
Where was this referencing 4450? Sorry, I missed
Page
that.
7.
page 7.
7.
Okay. We'll make sure to tile those out.
Right there. Yeah.
Yeah, that red line should be the underline, and the 4450 should be the.
Right. They should be
I think
switched.
there was just some confusion at the last meeting. For me.
The
anyway.
last meeting, it was actually a different number.
Well, I think 4550 was not within the development, so I'm like, it's not even right here. I don't understand what we're talking about, so.
And it's an interesting thing because, like you said, it's not technically within the development, but that road dead ended with the idea that future development would continue it. As such, it was, and unfortunately, Jake nor I were involved in that negotiation, so we have a little bit of a loss of institutional knowledge on that. But because that road was supposed to continue, originally you can see on this where it could hook into Green Farms, but that was determined as not a desirable route to be able to allow all that traffic through that neighborhood, and it wouldn't satisfy fire egress, just being a choke point with two things there. As such, Nilsen Homes was beholden to create a fire accessible turnaround there. So it is a little bit odd. I'm not keen on hammerheads, but this is one of those instances where it's about the least impactful and still retains enough area in that park and allows that neighborhood to access that public park easily.
So
Okay.
for me to be clear, is it 4550 or is it 4450?
The
4550 is the hammerhead.
yeah,
Okay.
4450 is where we need to close off.
Okay.
But I think that should be added to the section about completing the construction of 3675.
Yeah, happy to do that.
That should say 45.
Yeah, I think
Because that's the terminus of that route. 45.
that's right. Yeah, I think that's what you're referencing, Councilmember Call, right?
I guess I'm not understanding what you're asking.
I think we
These
got it.
all numbers are,
Bullet point 5, where it's
Yeah.
crossed out 4550.
Yep, we got it. I got it on mine. Thanks.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to look at the pond project. It's on page 7 and 8. So I guess we don't have a complete concept of what that's going to for sure look like. We looked at maybe some ideas, but I was looking through the developer contribution, and there's a parking lot with a 10-car capacity, which seems small to me. And we don't have a parking standard in our
For ponds.
ordinance, so. But I could be wrong, but to
Well,
me it
that's
seems
the-
little.
That's the minimum that they're required to put in. If you want something bigger, then, you know, it talks about, you know, up above, description of pond project. And then,
In the original MDA, it says they can put in a 10-stall
no,
parking lot?
actually, it says that they just have to provide the land. They're not required to provide paving or anything
Anything.
with the parking lot.
Okay.
So there's two things that impact this. Just wanted to show you, if I've got the map up. With the pond, there's a couple things that kind of impact the pond on this is we have an agreement with Poulter Property on getting the access to the lower area where this is, that Canesville Meadows will be terminated in a small parking trailhead. So there will be parking available from that side. This is a commitment that was done by the city as part of an agreement for that land previously. Also, as this road is developed along the north side of the pond, it'll be wide enough to support on-street parking. So while we do want some dedicated off-street parking, we felt between the south trailhead access point that's going to be on Poulter property, as well as the street parking, that we would have a pretty capable amount of parking. And so this is kind of a concession added amenity that Nelson Homes has said they would improve there.
What's the width of that road going to be?
That's a good question.
That is a good question. I
Well, you're
don't-
saying there's ample parking, so
Well,
what's the width of the road?
It is part of their main core transportation area, so it'll be the larger roads, not the main entrance into Green Farm Ways. It's where it widens back out. I don't have that exact width off the top of my head, but that's the standard that they'll have to build to.
Yeah, and I don't know the exact width off the top of my head. I can get that, but I think if I'm not mistaken, the 28-foot wide allows parking on one side, right? And so I mean, it's going to be much bigger than the 28. It'll be bigger than the 40. So I don't know the exact width, but there should be definitely parking on the side of the road.
On both sides, or one side?
Well, I think the idea would be you could do on both, but I mean, yeah.
Should be 45.
I can't remember. To look it up. Matt, I have a question for you on the city contribution of the pond. It talks about acquisition and dedication of water rights. Are we purchasing water shares? What are we doing there?
No, more or less that's a general description on we're responsible for providing the water there. We have already secured approval from the state to transfer water from the land drain at our Kenneth Baldwin Country Park into that slough and down that area. So we do have water rights or availability that we can transfer in to fill the pond. So it's just saying that's not Nelson Homes' responsibility to fill it with water. They're to dig it, excavate it, and the city has to make sure it's filled. And that's we do have that secured by the state.
Okay.
And my colleague just let me know that it's a 60-foot right of way that's currently planned. So
60.
thanks, Mike.
Okay.
That'd be nice to put in there, just to make sure it's there.
Agreed.
I guess for me, I only have questions left on the community center. I don't know what everybody else has to talk about, but.
Okay.
Other council members have questions on the pond while we're on the pond?
Where are you hauling all of that dirt to that you're excavating out?
From the pond.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be a mix. There will be some needed for 3675. to kind of build up that road. So we'll start that a little bit, and then, you know, we'll have some places that we need to fill in as we go, and then if we need to take some offsite, we'll end up taking some offsite.
We might have a location at Windsor Park that could use it.
Okay. Yeah, we'll keep that in mind.
If we take the top half.
Yeah.
Any other questions on the pond at all? Does the council feel like this is going to be something that you're going to lean towards on the pond?
I'm okay with the 5 acres.
I am too. I think that if we don't do 5 acres, we're going to end up doing some kind of maintenance. So I'd just as soon have a bigger pond.
I feel good about the 5 acre pond. I think it'll be a
Okay.
better, we're gonna have one anyway, so let's,
Make it
my
nice.
feeling is let's make it nice and make it something that can actually hold fish.
Did vote on 5 acres last time. That's
did.
what,
Yeah, it's
What you
kind of a
want,
done deal, right?
well, it's not a done deal, but it's,
You can change anything.
we need it.
We don't want to rehash it, though.
Yeah, let's
We
not
took enough
rehash.
time.
Let's move on to the silo park then, on what we're doing with that.
The Silo Park, most of it has been agreed upon, the pickleball courts, the park. The one thing that is still out is whether we contribute 50% towards the development of a community center. While the city is currently considering having a larger community center here adjacent to the city hall, this would be a smaller one that would be available to residents in that area. About 3,000 square feet. The listing of general finish levels has been added into the agreement. We believe, as staff and Nilsen Homes believe, that this would be a desirable amenity. And just thinking about it, one of the comments is, well, if we're going to build one here, why do one over there? I would say just for future planning. We have an explosive population. While we're pulling that under control, we still have areas that are going to build out throughout the city. We have a decided dearth in these kind of amenities. Royce City has 4 such amenities that are heavily used, and we believe that this is one of those kind of field of dreams things. If we build it, it'll be used. And just one of the things I'd point to is just trying to have some foresight on providing this. This is a great opportunity to more or less get a facility at 50 cents on the dollar. And I look at our city hall, which was built 17 years ago, and when they initially moved in, there was 3 employees that were in this city hall. We're now almost to the level of filling it, but it was some really generous foresight of the council at that time to say, let's invest it and let's do it right. And I think it's paid off in having a very attractive city hall compared to other cities that, I hate to bring up names, but I look at South Weber and it's kind of, they really
Very
haven't done
small.
much. It's pretty small. West Haven has a history of looking forward, and I think this is a good investment. Now it's up to the council. If we don't go with the community center, we can default into the restrooms and a pavilion there, which would still be an attractive amenity, just not quite a full year-round amenity for the city to use. So we're interested in this. This was one of my ideas that I threw out to Mark Staples, and Nilsen Homes has maintained, thinking it could be a good improvement compared to the small sales office that was going to be dedicated over to the city, and we'd be looking and saying, what do we put in a sales office? And so this is a $275,000 investment, and could be we could use some grants to help facilitate our investment in it, or even some improvements on it over what the base level improvements are set to be.
And so with that said too, just on the other side of it, in the staff report on here, we got back that there's a possibility of the $919,000, just shy of $1 million, that we would hopefully acquire back in impact fees. Remember, if we do this facility on here, you're going to have your maintenance and operation costs that will be year round. So we need to make sure that that's something that we add on to the thought process as well. It may or may not be, the best fit for the city, but as long as the community is using it, it might be a great fit overall. But I want to just make sure that the council's aware of where that stands. If we're going above and beyond where we are with the pond, we're spending some extra money to make sure that that pond is a nice quality pond. So the facility over there where we're splitting that 50-50, you're still going to have the maintenance and cost and operational cost of that facility. So just a thought.
I think this is a great addition to West Haven, and we have recently passed North Ogden in population, making us the third largest city in Weber County now. I think that we, as we talk about the kind of city we want, with the kind of activities we want, and, bringing the city together, I think this is a great way to start, even if we have the senior center. I think paying 50 cents on the dollar with Nelson, I think it would be a really great asset for West Haven.
Councilmember Schwab, did you get what you needed on the inside of that facility?
I think it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. I think for a business that builds houses and works with people all the way down to the exact aspect of every finish and then puts a price to it, I think this is a very bland way to do it, but I think it's cut and dry of what they are going to do.
And just to let you know, we will still be able to approve the final design. They just didn't have that ready at this point for the amendment. They'll still be bringing the designs to us, and we're quite sure council will be very interested in seeing how that comes together come the 1st of December timeframe.
Other questions?
I don't know. I still don't know that I'm in favor of a community center. It's way back in a neighborhood, right? And I understand that this is a great thing financially for the city, but I feel like it's not ideal, but it's convenient, right? So to me, I don't know that it makes a lot of sense, and I don't know what kind of events you're thinking would be there. But if I'm going to hold a reception or something there, I don't want to listen to the ping of the pickleball court. I'm not kidding. I can hear them at my house from this one, let alone being in the building next door. So having the pickleball courts right next to this could be a problem for events.
And that's a good point. I mean, that's something that we could even look into if the council chose to proceed with it, where we can close down the pickleball courts for specific events.
Councilmember Call, how else would you like to use that impact funds for this project if we don't move with this?
I don't know. I think I would probably increase the park in some way, in equipment or fitness, whatever. I don't know. It just seems so out of the way. It's for those residents, right? Which would be a great thing for those in the patio homes. Our seniors can use it to help host their families. Their home is not big enough, right, to have all of your kids and grandkids over. That's a great amenity for them, but not necessarily the rest of the city. So for me, it's just so far removed, where if you have the one here, everybody knows that it's there.
And one thing just to kind of compare to is this is becoming green farms, and it was billed this way as an attractable amenity for the entire city. The ponds are going to be tucked away. Would it be better to have the ponds right out here by the city hall? Sure. But Meadow Creek Park in Roy is tucked away right behind a community in the middle of a neighborhood, tighter than what ours will be. And if you go down there, you'll see 10 to 15 cars there with people fishing all the time. So this will be this development is going to be something that draws people from the outside. I don't mean to alert the residents there, because they're going to be enjoying it, and we'll make sure it's not abused in that way. But this is going to be not just the community center, but the pond itself is going to draw people into
Right.
that neighborhood. in
Right,
a
but
good
the
way.
pond is recreational. People are seeking that out.
True.
Right, I want to go down to the river because that's what my family's going to go ride bikes by the river. Oh, they want to fish? Oh, there's a pond. I'm going to go over there.
Yeah.
So for me, it's different than the community center
Oh,
and the people coming to the pond.
Excellent points.
I think the only issue that I had with it was the parking. There's not a lot of parking over there. The spaces are pretty limited. I think it was 43 parking spaces, I think it was. That's not a lot if you're holding an event, but
Right. What's the occupancy of a 3,000 square foot building? It's like
I'm not sure.
175 or something like that. It's not sufficient, I guess. But then you have to park all of that too.
Yeah. We'll have on-street parking as well, right? That road's big enough that you can park on the street, but again, it's a valid point.
I'd like to see the impact fees for Green Farms go to Green Farms, and make sure that they do.
They have to.
But they, if we leave things out on the table, we don't want to make sure that we're putting all those funds into Green Farms in
Right.
general.
I understand that. They have to go somewhere. And I don't know for sure where I would, like Ryan said, I don't know where I would exactly put that.
Well, any other questions on that? Concerns?
Is one restroom of each sex going to be enough for 43 parking stalls?
So we did talk about that, and it seems like, that was the minimum. So as we design that, we'll definitely take that into account. We felt like it was pretty close. So I mean, if we decide to do three kind of unisex bathrooms instead or something, we could do that. But yeah, we felt like it was close at least.
We wanted to get at least the minimums in per your request as to what would be required. I mean, one thing that we talked about is whether or not there would need to be more stalls or that sort of thing, but it really kind of depends on the design, but needed to have at least the minimum so that we could deal with it. I mean, there's issues that we need to make sure we have enough bathrooms, and that was, and until it's completely designed, you won't know exactly what that number is going to be, is what the problem was.
And we will be building also the kind of outbuilding as well. Granted, you probably won't want to use that in December, but for most of the year you could use that as well if you guys decide to upgrade that if it becomes a problem. So, food for thought.
Other questions?
Councilmember Saunders, you have not chimed in.
Well, I'm a little torn on the community center. I feel like it's, I don't know. I realize it's a different part of the city, but I feel like it's on the same end of the city, and I realize it did help to hear that there is, from staff point of view, that there's a need. So I felt like if we're building one here, why are we building one there? Was my initial response. So I'm still a little torn there. I'm wondering if we can make a motion to move forward with this, but kind of leave that part of it a little open-ended till we see what the concept is a little bit. And if there are other ideas of improvements that could benefit the city, I'd want to have the flexibility to switch gears if we need to.
Well, we have the concept already. We know what it's going to look like.
I understand that, but I guess if there's other ideas, like if you come up with an idea or, of where those
Sure.
impact fees could possibly benefit the city greater. I mean, I'm just wondering aloud here how to leave that a little more open.
I mean, some of the problems with keeping it open too long is that they're required under this agreement to have preliminary plans submitted by December 1st. And that's like, I wouldn't say a short time frame, but it is one that is a focused time frame. And so, and then, we're then required to move forward with the final approval of those plans. It has to go through the process of the planning commission and you guys. So that's the only problem with keeping it too far, open, is that there is a certain level of expectation that they, need to have so that they can plan accordingly, because
Well, and they're,
we're wanting them to be on.
We're wanting them to
to
move
be on
forward, and
time,
yet we're the
and-
ones that are, I get it, understand.
I think we're asking them to put resources towards this and to change, after they've spent resources on trying to do this is unfair. So,
Yeah, I'm not saying you can't, I'm just saying, and maybe you could do this, you could always, make a motion to move this agreement on to the planning commission. They have the public hearing, and then it comes back to you guys, and after hearing what the, public has to say about it, you could always say, we're pulling back and we're just gonna just have them do the restrooms and the pavilion. But then at least you'll have the public input as to,
Is there restrooms over by the pond?
There are not.
I think that's something we should focus on. I could see a lot of kids out there fishing having to go.
please don't go in the pond.
All right. Well,
I agree, Ryan. That's good. Let's make sure that happens.
Well, that might be a good way to go. What do you think, council? Do you want to,
I'll make a motion.
before you do, is everybody good with the timelines on here? With what has been submitted for timelines for completion? You've all had a chance to look those over. Is there any concerns with timelines?
I think that you've been really proactive in understanding how important this is to us.
Okay. All right. I'm ready for a motion if you're.
I will make a motion to move forward with the proposed amendment to the Green Farm Master Development Agreement in response to the notice of default.
and have it sent to the planning commission.
And have it
for
sent to
public
the
hearing.
Planning Commission for a public hearing.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? We'll do a roll call on this. Would that be okay, Emily, if we do that? All right. Councilmember Saunders,
Aye.
Councilmember Dixon,
Aye.
Councilmember Call,
Aye.
Councilmember Schwab.
Nay.
Okay, we have it 3-1. Okay, clear, so we'll move forward with that recommendation. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Appreciate
and
that.
We're excited to get going.
Okay, we'll move forward on to item number 8 on here. This is action on resolution for 26-2022 for interlocal agreement between West Haven City and Weber County for the use of security cameras. This is a proposal that was put out here. Is there anything you wanted to bring up? Or do you want me to go ahead? Okay. This is just a proposal. Hopefully you got a chance to look at this. This is for the initial interlocal agreement that was allowed for reimbursement for $1,200 for the security camera that we have out here for our voting, gosh, what do you call that?
Ballot box?
Ballot box, thank you.
Yeah.
And with that said, on there, they ended up, I guess the price for the camera and installation was a little bit more. Weber County has been able to get the full reimbursement for this. And so the amendment that we have tonight just reflects that overall on what needs to be done to complete that amendment for payment. Anything else?
Emily, in section 1.05, the date is in June, because I'm sure that's when it was originally needed to be submitted, but then the amount changed, so it's saying it must submit a reimbursement by June 1st. I don't know that it's important, but it does reflect that date. So, and change it to whenever we have submitted it.
Any other discussion on this?
No. Otherwise, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 26-2022 for the interlocal agreement between West Haven City and Weber County for the use of security cameras.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? We'll do a roll call on this. Councilmember Call.
Aye.
Councilmember Schwab.
Aye.
Councilmember Dixon.
Aye.
Councilmember Saunders.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much on that. We'll move on to item number 9 for update on TextMyGov.
Just wanted to give an update on TextMyGov and kind of show the council a little bit on what goes through on that. I'm going to throw it up on. TextMyGov is an app that we used CARES Act money to purchase. Some people have noticed the little TextMyGov widget that jumps up on the city website and stays up no matter what page you pull up. That's in process of being changed, so it'll just be on the front page. But this is, I just wanted to show the administrative dashboard that we have, and there's two aspects of TextMyGov. We have about just under 200 residents that have applied for the notifications, where it's a one-way notification for the city to put out messages. We are in the midst of creating different lists, including trash areas, general information, and a couple other categories, so we can, if people are interested, they could subscribe to those specific lists. The one that we've really kind of pushed is for the reporting aspect. Just to let you know, we are signed up for about 10,000 messages a year. We've had 2,000 used in the last 3 to 3.5 months, which several of those are just the initial signups. And so we're on a good pace for that. Generally, we have quite a few, but it shows unrecognized texts and recent logs. I just wanted to show you some of them. The last 2 weeks have been kind of quiet, actually, on this. Christina Shaw, who takes care of our public utility, or our utility billings and trash coordination, also coordinates this. I just wanted to show you some of the items that come through. This one was a request on. Oh, that's my reply. Sorry. This is a sample someone sent in. A resident put parks. Then we responded saying, here's your options on parks: restrooms, fields, courts, miscellaneous. They did courts. Then it asked for which park. It went down which park, and then their name, and then they brought up an interesting little request that we don't have a windsock indicator on the pickleball court, because you need those so you can tell where the pickleball is going to go.
Oh my goodness.
So this one generates a ticket. We have these based on the different categories, and they're sent to the respective department. So this one was sent to Brock because it was over parks. I get some of the interesting ones that dogs barking. Yep, we get dogs barking. This one, you don't see a response on here because it's dispatched to Dan. On this one, generally they contact the person back. It provides their phone number. They respond and go check in onto it. Occasionally, you do have ones that you correspond back on. I believe this one. was one that was dispatched to me because as it came up, they said they put in high, and that kind of gets a general response. They're worried about country park lights, and they were asking about the pickleball lights. How do you turn them on? And they were unaware of that. So as a response, which goes on a different one, because it's an outgoing, I let them know, hey, we've got light switches in this location, go check there, and committed to have better signage to direct people over to the light switch during those proper hours. And so this kind of tracks and keeps care of things. Interesting, they have some basic ones on marriage licenses, holiday schedule to push things out. Weber Basin, we had a request on park strip or water restrictions right there, and so we've had quite a few that come through. So we've go through this, and like I said, if it's set up to under a department, it will go specifically to those departments which can do it. Christina and I are an admin on it. We can come through and track these and make sure things are getting responded to. As you can see on the right side, you'll see completed status. The people who are assigned to that can complete as we go through there. And some of them you'll see they're just highs, and those are people just trying out the system or whatnot. So sometimes they don't have a completion on there. But it's a great tool. It's something that we're about time to include in the next newsletter, just to remind people that they can use it. At the first of the summer, we got a lot of weeds and nuisance kind of requests. Dan's been very responsive on doing those. We occasionally have ones on the rec program and other items. Just gives another venue for the residents to use to try to get information as well as report issues to us. It's kind of fun when they do attach pictures and that. I'm not sure where one of those are, or I'd pull those up. I should have looked into that. But it is a usable tool, and it is one of the things that we've pulled with the CARES Act, and I think it's a good little investment for the next additional 2.5 years that we have the contract out for it on.
We aren't responsible for barking dogs, are we?
Nuisance, they can be reported, and generally it's if the dogs are barking almost as if it's been they've been left outside with no water. Those kind of things. So we go by and see how bad it is. Generally, we get support from animal control, but since it's a nuisance type call, that Dan gets dispatched on those.
All right, thank you.
So this is readily available. We do have reports that we can pull down, lists and such that we can do if the council needs to. We are looking to expand the words. As we get this track of these unrecognized texts, like this one, they just put in the road people, and that one was Christina contacted back. It was about the slurry sealing, and so she just contacted them directly rather than responding through the text. But anything that's unrecognized gets tabbed to her or myself, and so it's just a nice auxiliary tool for residents to use for contacting City Hall.
I think it's a great idea to get it out so that more people know about it.
Yeah, we pushed it out. Like I said, we want to take it off popping up every website page on City, but we do need to push another blast through newsletter. After the first two, we had some really good activity on it, and it's just time to remind them, maybe not full article, but just a little reminder button on one of the side tabs.
Any other questions on this? Comments? Have you signed up on it? Anybody?
I have.
Me too.
I said hi.
You were one of those.
I was one of those that said hi. I wanted you to know that I was there. So.
I haven't, because I've been bugged every time I get off the next screen. So I haven't done it because it bugs me.
Oh, yeah, it does. Like we'll have it on the front one, and we're going to move it down to the bottom left-hand corner.
The same always would happen with the icon or the app. You get a notification widget to add it, and it would be on all the pages.
Yeah.
I don't know if that one's still there or not, but
We put the request into revise, and we've got a work order in for that. Yeah.
Okay, anything else? Okay, we'll move on to item number 10, upcoming events. We have our senior lunch bunch on August 24th at 11:30 a.m. We have our Howdy Hall with Mayor and Friends on August 24th at 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. We'll make some assignments on that as you're thinking about that for those dates.
I already volunteered for Howdy Hall, Mayor.
Okay, perfect.
I think I already, and I already
You did
volunteered
last
for
time, didn't you?
senior lunch bunch.
Okay. You sure
We're
you can
on it.
stick with it and be there?
We're
for
just
sure?
excited for Howdy Hall.
But it's good to have a reminder.
It is. And I'm gonna write it down again on here, just to make sure. All right, so, and then we have Touch a Truck on August 29th, and that will just be over here by this, at the Sports Park. It'll be from 6 to 8 p.m. And the council, if you could be there sometime around 5 to help get things ready for that, I'd appreciate that. We have our fall rodeo on September 16th through the 17th, those 2 nights on Friday and Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Looking forward to that. An evening of arts in September 24th from 5 to 9 p.m. And I think on, just so the council's aware, did you decide, Mr. Jensen, if you're going to set up the tent over at the Touch a Truck and at the other one, or what did you decide on that?
I believe Brock has a meeting with Carrie tomorrow, and they were going to. Oh, you met today? I hadn't heard back on logistics if you're planning on Evening of Arts for the tent. And so we just wanted also just to touch base with you about
Brock said he's gonna
usability for the Touch a Truck.
he's gonna set it up next week and test it out.
Yeah.
The setup.
Yeah.
Well, we could do it, like I said, at the Touch a Truck.
Yeah.
It might be good because they should be around
Practice.
anyway. They should have some vehicles there. So, and you've got a location for a 40 by 100, right? Do you know where you're gonna
Yeah.
put it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, then we got the National Day of Service on September 10th of 2022. I know Ryan's been pushing some things there. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
Just
to that?
if council wants to, if you want to participate, there's a lot of different projects. There'll be, you can jump on Just Serve and sign up that way. Most of the city projects start around 8 a.m., I believe.
They're all at my house.
And they're all at Mayor Vanderwood's
Mayor, yeah.
house. We're going to be cleaning up his yard.
Mowing the grass. Building a
Hopefully,
treehouse.
hopefully we'll get done quick so we can come to my house. My house looks terrible right
Oh,
now.
that'll be good. Yeah, there's some really good projects on Just Serve. So if you haven't had a chance to get on there, really good ones. We do have, just as a reminder, we're finishing up, we're getting down to the last 2 weeks on our limited Ironman competition, our first annual. That'll end on August 29th. And so
How many participants did we have?
thousands.
Did we?
Thousands of people.
I did not sign up.
No, it's been, I think we've had, was it 25? I think somewhere around close to 25 people.
I didn't know where to go to swim, so I just thought,
The mayor's been periodically riding his bike to the city hall to
All
log
right.
some of his miles.
I'm going to get there.
I did everything but the swimming. I don't know where to go
I'm
swim.
going to Bear Lake and finish the swimming.
All right, I'll do that.
Dropping me off down in Idaho and let me swim across, so.
Be
we'll see
sure and
how
wear
that-
a life jacket.
Be here the next time. But, yeah, so that's what's going on that we have set up. Is there any other upcoming events the council has? Or
I
staff?
just wanted to talk about ULCT in October. It's October 5th, 6th, and 7th. Is that correct?
The conference?
Yes. And are we having our meeting on October 5th? I just was trying to do a schedule.
We will, let's evaluate that
All
and
right.
see what we're going to do with that.
All right. Thank you.
Is that the date? Is October 5th? I haven't even seen
Yes,
that
it's
yet.
my anniversary.
Oh, okay. All right, perfect.
That's why I'm trying.
We'll look at that and see where that falls into place. Anything else? Okay, we'll move on to council, updates on 11. The only thing I had to add, I thought it would be appropriate because it came up in our meeting today, was just talk a little bit, just briefly about the water shares. So just so you're aware as a council, we're still working through trying to figure out what our water shares are with Wilson Water. There's been controversy back and forth all over the place, but currently we have certificates for 77.5 water shares. If you look at current value of that, it's over $1 million worth of water shares. So
It's a good investment also because they seem to go up a lot in value.
So just so you're aware that we have those water shares if it comes up within the city. I think as a council, when I was on the council before, we never ever talked about water shares or anything about those type of items that the city actually owned. Right now, we're doing a reconciliation to see where it stands. The water shares, they only have us down for 25.5.
Well,
So
are those
we've gotta
included in our
fix that.
assets as well as we're looking at our assets in our financial statements?
Well,
Yeah, that's something the mayor kind of challenged me, saying we need to be a little more transparent and be able to track those for this council and for upcoming. And so I'm in talks with Brian Child on how we can incorporate that into our financial reporting, just to make sure we have that on task. We
Great.
have them secured in a folder, but we
You
own
should
staff
have them
said
secured in a
we-
vault somewhere.
yeah.
a
So
safe.
so that's they're worth money. It's the
Other-
closest thing I've ever had to $1.5 million in my hands at one time.
yeah, that's true. Me too. I think the other side of it is that those water rights, when we have our discussions with Wilson, that's a possibility. If they have the water available, we can lease those as well. So that might be a revenue stream that the city could look at as well. Any other council updates? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to 12.
I have one. Sorry, I wanted the
Oh,
council
you
to speak.
just had
before.
to do it.
You got to
didn't
speak
you?
up.
We this is just to apprise the council. We just recently received a notice from our city treasurer, Ryan Child. The state auditor is looking at building permit fees, and they are they've issued an alert where it says to limit cities charging certain amount of fees on building permits, and that they would like to pull back and reduce the city's capabilities to charge building permit fees. What they're saying is you all should only be charging building permit fees to cover the cost of inspections and such, which is not all the costs that we have in a city. You have community development, you have administrative, you have all these other things that are impacted by it. This could potentially impact the city's revenues by over $1 million. This is going out to all cities, and so this is something that I'll be coordinating with ULCT and UCMA to say this doesn't seem right. It seems to be running kind of on par with where they wanted to reduce the time on building inspections to really expedite things and allow builders to contract their own. So we've just received this, and so this is something Amy and I have received. We're going to be reviewing it, but just wanted to put it on your radar. As we get more information, we'll give additional information to the council. So it's just something that's really odd. I'm sure it'll be a topic at the ULCT training this fall.
Who's driving it, Matt?
Well, it's coming from the state auditor's office, and under which direction, I'm not quite sure, but it is.
Would it happen to be the state legislature that's
Yeah,
doing
what it is it's a specific interpretation of the code, which is really kind of squirrely. And so both Ryan and Amy have looked at it and said, we don't interpret the code the way the auditor's interpreting it. So it's not a new law, it's kind of a reinterpretation of existing state code.
All right.
Okay, anything else? Move on to 12 for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much, council. We appreciate it. Thank you, staff, for being here. And those that in the attendance audience, we appreciate you being here. Thanks.